Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Chris Bircher, Director of Technical Services here at CTC, and today we are going to discuss a quick yet powerful tool and simple in Quick Select from the BIM Project Suite. Before we begin, if you're attending live, I would like to encourage you all to ask questions throughout the webinar using the questions panel. I will be monitoring that as we go, and we'll answer them where it makes sense. And then at the end of the presentation, I will make time to answer any and remaining questions at that time. If you are watching the recorded version on YouTube, which will be there shortly after this is complete, ask your questions in the comments panel, and I will be sure to respond to those in a timely fashion. So with that said, let's get going and talk about some Quick Select. Now, for those of you that are regular Revit users, making selections, filtered selections in Revit can be frustrating at times, especially because the filter command that you have access to historically is just by category, right? You select a bunch of stuff in your floor plan or in your 3D view, and you get to filter by category. And that's it. If you need anything more than that, you have to, build a selection, or a schedule to go ahead and do that. Or you have to, I think you can do a filtered selection set now, but even then, there's limitations there, and there's not really a great way to do it. It'd be nice, if you guys remember from the good old AutoCAD days, we had a tool, Quick Select, where you could go ahead and very quickly grab on a bunch of stuff, right click, type in a bunch of commands or a bunch of parameters, boom, now you have it. Well, Quick Select here in the BIM Project Suite is that tool, but for Revit. And I'm going to show you how that works and then how we can do some better selection sets inside of your projects and how to use them on any project for that matter, and reuse them if appropriate. So in today's webinar, we're going to go ahead and just show you where the tool is, how to get access to it, where it is, how the user interface looks, kind of how it's laid out. And we're going to start from the beginning and just do a couple of basic selections, show you how that works, how to implement kind of a multi-tiered selection set, basically multiple categories, varying parameters, adding, removing from the set, and how to save them, how to use them again in the same project, or ultimately at that point in another project. And I'll explain kind of how that works. And we do it live. That's how I roll. PowerPoints aren't very useful in situations such as this. So just to do a quick little recap on what we're dealing with when it comes to selections inside of Revit, right? I can do a window selection of a floor plan, grab everything, you get your filter window. You click your filter window, it's all by category, right? While at times that's great and is all I need, if I just literally needed to grab my doors, great. Now I can grab all my doors and change the work set that they're on, or whatever varying parameter I need to worry about, right? Great. But maybe I want only my interior doors or only my exterior doors. Now I got to either go build a schedule, include the function parameter, or include what work set they are on, sort by that, and then tile my windows so they're side by side, select things in one end to the other. It becomes more of a process. Right? Wouldn't it be nice if I could just have a tool do the selections for me? And whether it's just cleanup, manage work sets, manage function, whatever the case may be, right? We need a little bit more control over that. So on your CTC productivity tab, in the green bundle of tools is our CTC BIM Project Suite. The Quick Select utility is a free tool, so it will be a lighter shaded color green if you've got all those expanded out. Mine are in the free tools drop-down cluster, and it's right there in the middle. When you fire this up, you're going to see probably a little, it'll look just like this. I'm sorry, I was going to say it might be a little smaller, but it's kind of broken into 3 key areas. The center area here is where you're going to spend most of your time putting things together, and this is where you define selection criteria. Whether you're doing just a single selection of a specific element by category, by filter, via some parameter in that grouping, or defining a set of selections. So on the left side here, we get a list of selection criteria sets that we build. And I'll show you how this works. But anytime you start to build out a set and you hit update down here, you're going to start to see this list grow as you start adding things in. On the right side here, this is where you are presented with what is actually being selected based on the criteria and the selections defined. This is going to be the list that shows you the total number of items selected and a breakdown by category, by family, by type, and how many, what they are, and how many of each one you got. And then at top, we have the ability to save them, kind of reset or hit new, and load from a settings file. And we're going to cover all of this. So to start off, we're going to start simple. I'm going to do just a basic selection. Now, in the criteria window here at the very top, we have an option to determine what we're applying this to. Is it the project, elements in the view, or I can do a window selection and grab a bunch of stuff and apply it to just that selection, which is pretty slick. So in my case, I'm just going to do project for now. I then have an option to choose. Do I want to use a predefined filter already? And these are coming from the filters list inside of Revit. So if you've already made a selection category, you can reuse it here. And then because you've already defined all those properties, the rest of this is grayed out, and you can either add it to a selection, remove it from an existing selection, or replace/update what's already there. So by hitting update, it adds it, and it has a little preface here that says F for filter. If I had done a categorical selection, it would have said C at the beginning instead of F. Tells you what filter in this case is being used. So it's saying wall type A. And then on the right side, it tells me it's grabbed 173 walls that have type A in the name, which is how my filter was defined in Revit. And then it tells me exactly how many of those there are for each wall type, each individual instance of that wall drawn. And as I am clicking on these, as you can see this back here, if I shift this over to the side, everything that's a part of this filtered selection set right now is being selected in the background. So if I were to stop everything at this point and hit OK, those elements are selected in my model, and now I can do whatever I want with it. So I've got multiple type A walls selected, multiple types of my type A walls selected, and now I can do what I want with them. Do I need to change the work set that they're on? Do I want to change something about their location line, or are they supposed to be structural? What have you? Do I need to change a fire rating parameter for these? You know, you've got some flexibility at this point to do what you need to do. You can also delete things from this point, right? So you can use this tool to help do some additional cleanup if necessary. So let me pop back a step here. We'll get back into Quick Select, and we're going to do a couple more of these. So I showed you we can do it by filter and just reuse something that already exists, right? I can switch it now to by category and choose from a list of Revit categories that may or may not even be in my project, right? This is everything. So in this case, I'm going to go down and find doors. I've got a lot of doors in my model. And so it picks that category. Now the bottom part starts to light up here. So I get to define the filter. I want to pick a parameter. Let's say I want to pick function. And maybe I want to grab all of the doors that have a exterior function and hit update. Okay, so now if I expand these over here, it's going to list all of the door families in this project that have a function equal to exterior. Now, many of you may not be using this parameter, and that's totally fine, right? This is just an example. However, I used this a lot in my Revit models because I used this function parameter in a filter to help control the graphics and the appearance of these families at certain stages of a project, right? So if the value was set to interior, I would use that as a filter to halftone those elements in, say, phase 2 of a new construction project, right? Or of a remodel or addition or something along those lines. Phase 1, I just wanted to be, was already halftone. Phase 2 needs to be bold, but I don't want to mess with Revit's phasing too much. It was just a way to do things. Or maybe in a, I want to halftone my core shell, but have my interiors drawings pop a little bit more. So this is a way you can get around that using the function / workset parameters as filters. But you can see here, I'm getting my bifold doors are showing up as have a function set to exterior, and actually a number of my standard, well, here's another bifold, but so you can see everything's highlighted immediately as soon as I click add to that. Now, at this point, I've hit update or add to selection set, and it's put it here, right? Let's say this is something that I want to reuse on a project, just a simple selection, and I want to use it again somewhere else. I can save this. So when you hit save, you can give it a name, exterior doors function, just because that just helps define a little bit about what you've got going on here. So I'm going to hit that, I'll hit save. I can now open another project and load that in. So if I remove this and just kind of back out a step and jump back in again, I can load settings at any time. And in this case, if you're loading simple selections, those have a I might have just saved that to a folder that I wasn't paying attention to. So save. It did go there. Okay. So when you save settings now, they are getting a QSSH settings file, right? And that is a specific settings file. So there's active settings and full selection settings. The full selection settings are anything that was saved kind of over to the right side. So it's one of our newer formats. Quick Select's been around for a while and it's undergone some changes. So we have the ability to pick and choose, or we have a legacy settings file, which is QSS, and we have the newer one, which is QSSH. They will both work when loaded in. You just have to pick the appropriate settings setup. Saving them are all going to be as a QSSH type file, just so you're aware of this and wondering why certain things aren't appearing the way you expect them to. So if I were to clear this out again and hit load active, those are going to be the QSS types, which are the older version. Still works. You can load that in, and well, I guess that one didn't have anything in it, and nothing to remove because I haven't been using those. So That's what I get for trying to be slick. But you can load in your old ones. You can also load in these, and here's my exterior doors function. I'm gonna load in exactly what I just got done saving and try to apply it. If it doesn't find those in your project, it's gonna let you know. One way or another, it's not gonna be able to do something. Maybe you try to load in a selection set that has parameters defined in it that aren't being used in your project. It's not gonna work. You'll get notified and you're gonna run into inaccurate selection values. So now, more often than not, hopefully you won't be having that issue because they're your projects built off your templates and your standard shared parameters and project parameters for that matter should be fairly consistent across the board. Now, if you're constantly working with, as like maybe you're a consultant, right? And you're constantly working with various individuals or various firms trying to help them with their projects, you might want to preface or put a suffix on your settings file so that you know what client those were for, so you don't inadvertently load something into the wrong place. Now, unless you're doing something super generic like this, door function equals exterior or interior, that's a global thing. Now, let me take one other step back here. I'm going to load in a different settings file that has a couple of things built into it. In this case, I now have 4 different settings that I've defined with this. I've got a categorical selection for walls, which is just getting me function equals exterior, right? So that gave me a bunch of walls. Then I added doors, and the same thing gives me that. Then I added another walls one where the work set equals interior, right? So now I'm checking to see if I've got exterior walls drawn on the wrong work set. So if they're on the interior work set, they're going to disappear at this point. Now I know maybe something's not highlighted that should be. And you can reverse engineer that, right? So maybe if they equal exterior and you update and remove those from the selection, right? Now I've got a couple of walls here that are potentially on the wrong work set somewhere. Might need to go clean that up. And then I try to do the same thing with the doors, right? So I'm trying to I'm trying to isolate content that either has the wrong function or the wrong work set. And this is because I'm using kind of some stock or default settings for my company. That should be something I can find rather easily in all of my jobs, because that's what we do. Either it's an exterior door versus an interior door, this work set versus that work set, right? And now there's a couple of other visibility settings here I want to point out. So when you've got selections defined, whether it's a simple selection or a more advanced one like this, you see your list of entities here, but maybe they're not showing up on the screen properly, or not all of them are showing up on the screen. We've got some navigational tools here at your disposal. The first one being show elements, right? So I can click the binoculars and it's going to show me where some of these entities are, right? So I've got some doors out here, got some doors on the interior that are highlighted. Now, because I'm in a plan view, it's not necessarily going to be able to show me some of these other brick walls that are more than likely either over here because my building's cut off a titch, or on a different level. Another set of options that you have is we have zoom toggle, so you can zoom in, zoom out, or just do a zoom to fit. But we also have hide and isolate options here. And these are just temporary hide isolates, but again, maybe you just want to focus on those few elements. So you could do an isolate. It's going to hide everything else. So now I can hit OK and come see what is actually going on here. So these doors here are on the exterior work set with exterior function, but they shouldn't be on the exterior work set or with an exterior function. They should be interior. Mine aren't prefaced, or the types aren't set up properly, but it's still on the wrong work set. And that to me was easy to see. So I can fix those now, put those on my interior work set, go back, rerun my selection, and get updated results. So that's kind of the intent here, is to assist you in digging in a little bit deeper to finding entities that don't meet certain bits of criteria. Or just to make it easier to select something real quick, right? But I showed you we can, so to stack some of these. I know I loaded in the settings file with them pre-stacked. To actually build that out, let's do it. So I can either use filters or categories or both in a set, right? I can't use them in the same selection, but I can add one that's based off filters and add another one based on a category and combine the two together, right? So for example, let's grab wall type A, update, well, adding them to the set. I'm gonna grab another row here and grab wall type B, update my set. Well, I don't have any B type walls, so we can delete that. And go back to type D. I've got a few of those, there we go. And now if I expand my list over here, you can see I have A walls and some D walls. All right, now we're gonna add another row here to start to parse this down a little bit, right? I've got 400 walls selected at this point. Let's parse this down a titch. So now I'm gonna go by category and grab walls and choose a filter to filter down by. So whether that's fire rating or the width or the level, or I should say base level or base constraint, right? We're dealing with walls here. Function, again, is another option. So if I grab fire rating equals 1 hour and remove that from the set. So I just removed anything that had a rating, basically, and I still have 173 walls left. And in this case, they're all type A walls. So I just removed the type D altogether. So maybe I no longer need that in my queue. Or actually, so we have a couple of ways to go ahead and build this out. Right, so grab this, update. Oh, it's not updating. There we go. I had my cursor highlighted in the wrong spot. I was highlighting the existing version and changing it instead of clicking the blank space and adding to it. So now we'll grab my walls again. And if there isn't a category in your model, it'll tell you, which is really slick, because now it's not going to let you build out something that doesn't exist in that particular file. All right, let's try that one more time. Get my fire rating in here. Equals 1 hour. Remove from the set. Update. There we go. Now I've got all three, and it gives me what I need. Okay. Or maybe I can select this one and change it instead of removing. Let's add it and hit update. Right. So now it's running through the entire model. And in addition to the type A and type D walls that I've added, it's now trying to find all of the remaining 1 hour walls and adding that to the list. So now I just went from 400 walls to 600 walls, because just by changing how we were updating the selection set. Again, if I switch this back to remove, I now go down to 173 because it took out anything that had a 1 hour rating to it. And maybe let's try one more here, and let's do. I can see I've got some walls here in my first floor plan. So I'm gonna add let's see, what's it, to my walls again, one more. There's walls. And for the parameter, let's say we do the base constraint equals level 1, and we're also going to remove that from the list here. If I hit update, I lost about 19 more walls, and you can see the ones that were blue before over here are no longer highlighted anymore because it's removed anything that had a base constraint of level 1. Okay, so now I'm focusing on stuff that's above me. Now, let's do this. I'm going to select this one again, and instead of level 1, let's change it to level 2 and hit update. Yeah, and those should come back, and it's flipped things around a little bit. So we're getting some differing numbers here, which is exactly what I was hoping to see. So, and if I were to go ahead now and hit OK, those entities will remain selected, and I can make additional changes in the properties. I can change the work set that they're on because these are all likely supposed to be on the interior work set. Let's make sure that's the case. And there you have it. So I want to say thank you all for joining me today. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to seeing you guys at the next webinar in a couple of weeks.